Congratulations on today's service. Before going into talking, there's a few announcements I would like to make. First and foremost, we have a Thanksgiving fundraiser coming up, and all the churches here, we're still trying to figure it out, but churches will be holding a Thanksgiving meal, maybe a lunch or a dinner, along with a raffle as a fundraiser. So if I do this right, you can see the raffle ticket here. Okay, so the raffle ticket is for an Apple store card, $1,500. So we're raffling off $50 per ticket. The ticket gives you opportunity to bring you and a friend to the meal, to the dinner. And we're raffling off, of course, one ticket per person. So if your friend would like a ticket, they can purchase a ticket and they can bring somebody. So this is a great way to have also friend and family come and get to know the church as well. So it's going to be on November 22nd, 1 week before Thanksgiving. That way, families who are traveling and go home for Thanksgiving can participate there. Okay? I apologize. It's a little bit small for everybody here. But if I was to make it bigger, it was going to cover my face. That wouldn't work. Anyways, we'll have that available to you. It's available at the churches this week. Okay? Our goal is to sell 300 tickets. So it's $100, 100 tickets per area. So I count on you guys for your help. You can distribute to friends and family, and we can make this fundraiser work. This time, different from the other fundraiser that we did. Last time, because we didn't sell enough tickets, the church ended up receiving because the church had too many tickets. So this time, the goal is to sell off all the tickets and raffle it off. So we won't be holding on. Somebody will definitely win this prize, okay? And if you do win, it's a good bargain. 3x, right? No, 30x, 3 times the value. So if you do $50 and you win $1,500, you can do a nice Christmas gift for somebody, okay? The second announcement, the pilgrimage to to Brazil this year is taking place. The date is not certain, but it's going to be between October 30th and November 4th or 3rd. The consecration for the sacred grounds will be on that day, and the service itself, okay? So if you're interested in going, if you'd like to go, please contact us. We're taking registrations for that now. It's going to be in Rio de Janeiro. First time in Rio for many of us. And the last announcement is the choir retreat. So this next month in Florida, we have a 3-day retreat for the chorus participants. And for anybody who would like to join the chorus, it's going to be a really nice activity. We're going to be singing in person. So join us for that. Any details, contact us after the service. It's going to be on the 17th, if I'm not mistaken, October 17, 18, and 19 for the weekend. Okay, back to the congratulations on today's service. And it's truly a great permission that we're having to be here celebrating the service. Before going into the main part of the talk, I'd like to express my gratitude to all of you for your support during this past month, during the pilgrimage to Angola. It was a great opportunity to go and participate in this construction that's taking place in Angola. So thank you for your dedication, taking care of the churches, and all the support across financially and with your time to make that possible. There's a lot that took place this pilgrimage. So much to share. I wish I could do it all here. I promise we'll do it a little bit at a time. But today I'd like to share a few points with you. The first is, upon going to Angola, it really brought me to reflect on our faith. How is our faith, right? Overseas, here. In a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your faith? 10 being the strongest, right? In other words, you surrender your whole life to God. You put everything God first. On a scale 1 to 10, how would you rate it? If your life depended on it right now, could you put your life in God's hands? So I want everybody to reflect on this past month, right? Any difficulties you might have had during the month, any challenges. Did you face that with faith? Or did you face that with your own strength? On top of that, was it a faith where you were trying to solve your problem? Or was it a faith that you were seeking God and to serve God? How was that? How would you rate it? Remember that number. So 1 to 10, right? You don't have to tell me, but choose a number. 1 being the weakest, 5 being in the middle, 10 being the strongest. Well, how does Meishu-sama see faith? Anybody know? What does Meishu-sama say about faith? In Kyosho-sama's hymns, Kyosho-sama shares, isn't faith something to fulfill my wishes and needs? Question, right? Oh, how wrong I was in thinking like this until today. Oh God, faith exists to fulfill your wishes and needs. I'll be very honest with you. When I used to think about faith, I never thought about faith being something that exists to fulfill God's wishes, right? You think faith exists to fulfill my needs, my wish. I go to church, I pray when I have a problem, right? I pray because I need something. But here's someone saying how wrong I was to think like this, right? Faith exists to fulfill your wishes and needs. In order to accomplish God's will, he says, he awakened us to have faith. This, everyone, is his love. God allows us to have faith because he needs us to accomplish his needs. Then he says, through using our sonin, God, you allow us to walk this path of faith. And 2 more, he says, God has given us a heart to believe in things that cannot be believed. Oh, how mysterious this is. And finally, to believe in things invisible to the human eye. You, O Meishu-sama, proclaim to us that this is what faith is. Now, why am I talking about faith all of a sudden, right? Well, aside from the fact that it was one of the main points that Masaki-sama shared in Angola, really, I've heard in other sacred words, Masaki-sama sharing that our faith in this part of the world, in the West or in the developed world, is very lukewarm. Lukewarm would be in a scale 1 to 10, maybe a 5, maybe a 4, right? Lukewarm. You're boiling water, 10 being very strong. But it didn't really hit home, didn't make sense until I went to Angola. I'll give you an example, if I can do this. This was at the service. I'm sorry, the picture I had to take from a video, but the video I wanted to show you guys, the video was very bad. Somebody walked right in front of it. But there's this mother carrying a newborn child in her back, right? Dancing, singing. The baby was asleep, and the mother was dancing and singing in the service. And I thought, maybe that's just one case, right? There's another mother. Baby looked like he was just born. I mean, from the picture, you can't tell, but he was really, really tiny, right? Dancing and singing. And she participated in the service. And there was a whole row of mothers that were coming and dancing and singing, and the babies strapped on their back. There was another child, maybe 7 or 8, who was like, Mom, I don't want to walk. And literally holding on to I don't have a picture, but was holding on to her mom like this, right? In the back, and participating in the service. I wish I had a picture, but the choir of youth, children, and the whole choir was like 2,000 people. The groups just kept coming and coming to sing. The service, like most of the service, was singing. And it was just one group after another singing, dancing, glorifying God. But why am I showing you this, right? In our side of the world, usually what do we say? Oh, my baby was just born. My daughter just had a child. I can't go to church today. Right? I have to stay home and take care of the child. Here, we see, or actually, it's on this side, right? For you guys. Yeah. Here, we see a mother who traveled maybe for days to get to that service. Days with a newborn baby. And you think, oh, they have cars, right? They have a bus. You know the Volkswagen Beetle bus, the ones that the hippies used to use? That's their common transportation there, packed with people. So you take a bus that sits 7, you might find 15, 20 people in that bus, right? Maybe a little bit bigger bus than that. But just so you have an idea, because we say bus, we have this idea of this huge bus, charter bus, air conditioning, Wi-Fi, right? Movies that you can watch all you want. Very different condition, right? For days, traveling with a child, maybe 2, maybe 3 children. Because the population in Angola, very different from here, 60% is youth, from what I heard. 60% of the population are young people. So you see a lot of people on the street, right? A lot. The church, directors, ministers, most of them are young. Some of them even younger than me. I think the president's a couple years younger than me, and the director, right? So it's an amazing sight. Now, like this lady, 20,000 people participated in this. 20,000. You look back, you can't see the end of where all the people are, right? So many people. And you think, well, they have chairs, right? No. They bring a blanket, they bring their own kind of stool to participate in the service. And you think, wow, the service though, they must have nice facilities, bathrooms. No. Porta potties. But why am I sharing that, right? Because in our world, it would be like, oh, I'm going to go 3 days by car, maybe, to get to a service that doesn't have a place for me to sit. I don't think I'm going to go. It's going to be online. Maybe I can watch later. I don't need to go. I have to work. Maybe I'll go next time. Why? The question is, would a mother like this one here travel for so long under such hard conditions to come to a service to receive somebody who's from Japan, has nothing to do with their culture, and participate there for a few hours and go back home? The road to the sacred ground from the hotel to where we were was about a 3-hour drive. One of the reasons it's a long drive is because the buses have to slow down a lot. It's not a flat, nice, paved road like we have here. They're paved, but a lot of them have cracks on the way, have construction that needs to be done. Yet 20,000 people made that journey. And we were the closest. There were people that traveled for days to prepare our food. They slept overnight for a week in the house that the church rented with the kitchen. It was a big kitchen, right? So they made delicious, delicious food. I mean, I loved Angola just for the food. It was really nice, right? It was so good, right? Delicious food. And the members didn't have a bedroom to sleep in. They slept on the floor to prepare food for us, to receive masaksama. There's an episode that's going to come out later in more detail. But for you to have an idea, the president from Congo, from the country of the Congo, right? The Republic of Congo, the church president traveled 24 hours by motorbike to get to the border. Taxi. You get on a bike for 24 hours, in the back of somebody on a motorcycle for 24 hours just to get to the border. Then he traveled another 8 hours to receive permission to go into the country. And then another 24 hours by bus just to go see Masek Sama. And you think, well, this is a one-time thing? He did it last year too. So like him, many members made an incredible journey to go meet with Kyoshu-sama, with Masek Sama. So how much is it too much to serve God? We have to ask. Would I be willing to make a 24-hour drive? For example, in the US, some of us, we have difficulty. We can't travel by air right now, right? Some of us, given our situation, difficult to use air travel. Would you make a 24-hour trip across the country? Masek Sama, for example, was coming to Florida or was coming to New York, or somebody in New York. Would you go to Florida or vice versa? By car? Or we'd say, oh, I can't take an airplane, not going to go. In our case, we have great roads, great cars. Depending on the car, it drives itself, right? But how much is it too much for me to go and participate? Why go see Masek Sama? I want to show you another picture. This is very interesting. If I can do it here. It's hard to see, but there's a tree in the back here, right? And actually standing in front of the tree is the president of the church, President Nari from Japan. And this tree was planted by Masek Sama last year, and they consecrated the sacred ground. It was a little tiny tree. Today, the tree has grown so much, it's almost as tall as the area where they did the prayer, the temple, right? The provisional area. It's over 3 meters high. It grew incredibly fast. The vegetation in the sacred grounds is growing incredibly fast. Masek Sama planted a little cassava, which is a mandioca, né? In Portuguese. He planted a little cassava bud. This year, it was over 3 meters tall. Why is that? Then we have to stop and think, who is Masek Sama? We went to the day before the service. We were at the sacred grounds preparing for the service. And I shared this with some people during our online studies, and it's on Instagram. But the king of the Congo went to meet with Masek Sama at the sacred grounds. Usually when a king is meeting anybody, he says, okay, you come to me, right? And you go to his place. When he heard who Masek Sama was, what his mission is, the king went. He not only went, he decided to participate in the service. Now, this king, it's believed that his tribe is the original tribe of our ancestors, where humanity was born. This king went to Masek Sama and held a ritual requesting Masek Sama salvation of our ancestors. This king doesn't meet anybody. Above him is usually only God. But he went to meet with Masek Sama. When this king travels, the president of Angola needs to know, needs to have his approval for the king to travel. That's how precious this tribe is. He went all the way to meet with Masek Sama. He did a ceremony asking for the salvation of ancestors. Now, there's something that the king noticed, I believe. There's something that these members, 20,000 members, are noticing. I think we need to reflect. Who is Masek Sama? Today's sacred word, we heard Nidai-sama talking about the holy seat of Kyoshu. And she explains clearly, right? Meishu-sama is working freely through me. What Meishu-sama says, I said, they're inseparable. Then she says, she talks about superstition. Superstition. So Meishu-sama talks about that ball of light that exists within him, right? And she clearly states, in another sacred word, that that gets passed on to Kyoshu, from Kyoshu to Kyoshu to Kyoshu. Gets passed on. However, there are people that get caught on only that. Meishu-sama is divine. Meishu-sama had this ball of light. So they look at just that and say, I don't need to hear Kyoshu-sama. I don't need to hear, in this case, like sama, right? But she says that is misplaced superstition. Just to focus on that is superstition. Why? That superstition not just about praying to a raccoon or praying to, in our case, we have dolls and statues, right? Just that idea also is superstition. Why? Because you break order. God is working freely through Meishu-sama, through Kyoshu-sama, then to us. That order exists. So Masaki-sama talked about that during the service, right? Because part of this purity in the faith of the Angolan members, they recognize this order. They accept this order. When they go for 3 days, 4 days to meet Masaki-sama for a few hours in the service, they're going to meet with Meishu-sama. They're going to meet with God. The same way the king of Congo went to meet with Meishu-sama. That order is how we receive our blessings, as we heard today in the service. If we break that order, there is no blessing. We say, oh, I want a prosperous life. I want a good job, right? I want harmony at home. But the most sacred order that exists, we are not acknowledging. Our ancestors, no, I can't go that far yet. Hold on. Because that's something I want to share before that. In the Bible, we have a few things that Jesus shared that I want to share with you. Like this, it's really nice. So it's called the parable of the great feast. And I want to see, I'm sharing this because I want to ask each one of us to reflect. Which one do you relate to? Right? Do you relate to this parable? So somebody says to Jesus, how great it will be to attend the banquet in heaven, right? In the kingdom of God, when that comes. And Jesus says, Jesus says, a man prepared a great feast and sent out many invitations. When the banquet was ready, he sent his servant to tell the guests, come, the banquet is ready. But they all began making excuses. One said, I have just bought a field. I must inspect it. Please excuse me. In our day, it'd be, I have to work. Sorry, I can't make it. Another said, I have just bought 5 pairs of oxen, and I want to try them out. Please excuse me. In our day, it might be, oh, I have to take care of my kids. I have a soccer game to go to, whichever it is, right? Please excuse me. Another said, I just got married, so I can't come. The servant returned and told his master what they had said. His master was furious and said, go quickly into the streets and alleys of the town and invite the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. After the servant had done this, he reported, "There's still room for more." So his master said, "Go out into the country lanes, behind the hedges, and urge anyone you find to come, so that the house will be full. For none of those I first invited will get even the smallest taste of my banquet." So the master here is God, of course. And he's sharing what are our priorities. And God is clearly saying, your priorities come later, you're not going to get any of it. He's sending the invitation. You're the first ones to be invited. Yet, everything else is more important in our lives. That's a very lukewarm faith. There's another part where he says, got the right ribbon. Sorry, didn't I? He talks about the treasure of the kingdom of heaven. It's a short one. It says, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure that a man discovered hidden in a field. In his excitement, he hid it again and sold everything he owned to get enough money to buy that field. Then he has one more. He says, again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant on the lookout for choice pearls. When he discovered a pearl of great value, he sold everything he owned and bought it. The kingdom of heaven is more valuable than anything you own, anything you have. It's more valuable than your job. It's more valuable than your money. It's more valuable than family. It's more valuable than everything. If you see it, hold on to it with all your life. It's what he's saying here, right? They sold everything to buy it. That's the kingdom of heaven. Yet, God can be saying, look, I have the kingdom of heaven here for you. And what do? Oh, invite somebody else. I'll go next time. What if there is no next time? What if God is saying, this is your time? I'm inviting you now. And afterwards, you say, oh God, but you sent me the invitation. Well, like Jesus said in the banquet, next. Not that God doesn't want to share. He's giving us firsthand, right, to do that. One very important point, like someone shared in one of the meetings there, and sorry, I shouldn't share this right away, but it really got me to reflect, right? He cited this from the Bible, and he says, in the book of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 37 says, just say a simple, yes, I will, or no, I won't. We saw part of this in the Instagram and Facebook, the church. And he says, we're serving on this side of yes, I will, right? And the Bible says, just say a simple, yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything beyond this from the evil one. So to God, God is going to give you an option. God is not going to force anybody to do anything. Will you or will you not follow me? Will you or will you not do? To God, you have that option. Yes, I will, or no, I won't. Anything else, as you see here in the Bible, is from the evil one. So in other words, yes, I'm following God's will. I'm following Meshu Sama's sacred word, but this part of Meshu Sama's sacred word, I don't like very much. I'm not going to think about it right now. That's the in-between, yes or no. Is that coming from God? No, it says it's from the evil one. We have a choice. To God, both of them are welcome, yes or no. If you say no, eventually, just like someone shared, you have the opportunity to repent. But when you're stuck in the in-between, how can you receive any blessing from God? You're stuck centered on your own way of thinking, your own way of doing. Makes you reflect, right? Think. In the same meeting, while I was in Angola, Masak Sama shared regarding our ancestors. Somebody asked, how can I honor my ancestors? That's a great question, right? And today, being the Grand Ancestor Service, sharing a little bit ahead of time, but it really touched me, right? How do you honor your ancestors? We're the sum total of our ancestors. We're here praying with them, participating in the service with them. How do we bring peace to our ancestors, right? Masak Sama, he asked, he said, do you think our ancestors went through everything they went through for us to live, just survive? Think about all the people that came before you, right? The ones you know, because there's so many before us. All the trouble they went through. Wars, conflict, famine. Every generation hoping that the next generation will live a better life, right? Live a happier life. And he says, do you think they went through all of this just for us to survive our day-to-day? He says, no. They did all this for us to live in God's happiness, for us to attain eternal life. Even if they weren't aware of it, you think about it, right? A parent wants their child to be happy. Next generation, I want them to be truly happy, reach true happiness, right? So you do all that for that life that goes on to receive that. And then Masak Sama shared, for us to live in this happiness and transmit this truth, the best way to honor our ancestors is to know this truth and live in this happiness, sharing it with as many people as possible. He's saying we can live in this happiness. The happiness is not someplace far away, not in heaven when I go someday. It's here right now, right? And to live in that happiness and share that is the best way to honor them. And then he said this. This is really big. He says, we are being made to know the truth that all of humanity is seeking. Jesus Christ has already returned. When humanity is out there waiting for the second coming of Christ, we are here to share with the world that the second coming of Christ has already happened. This is huge, everybody. This is the biggest news of the century. You know, when the Jewish people were waiting for the Messiah to come the first time around, and he came, and they just looked past, didn't notice, he came again. Second coming of Christ happened. And we are being entrusted with this truth. We know today that the existence of Jesus, right? The life of Jesus transformed history, transformed humanity. There's not one person in the world that doesn't know the name Jesus, right? All of the art, culture, everything was influenced by that life of Jesus. And he said, he'll come again. And we're here to let the world know the second coming of Christ happened. That's the next big news that everybody's been waiting for, right? And then Masak Sama shares, the soul Messiah already exists within us. We are pioneers in bringing this truth to all. This is the best way to honor our ancestors. That's what they've been waiting for. We have a huge role. And just like the pioneers, as we see here, right, we're the first ones being invited to participate in. God is going to fulfill his plan. He's going to do it, whether we participate or not. God, the same way he's been doing it since Jesus was born, right? But the invitation is out, just like those being invited to the banquet. Our ancestors are eager for us to live this truth and share that. They want to vibrate in that joy. We sent out an invitation today for the service today, where Meishu Sama says, right? If you don't go to church, you can't pray to God unless you go to church. You have to physically go to church. And in that letter, I shared with everybody, you're the sum total of your ancestors. When you come to church, they come to church. When you serve God, they serve God. Not separate, whereas they're living their life in heaven somewhere and I'm here. So they depend on us to do our part here, to share that with as many people as possible. That's how we can honor our ancestors, truly honor our ancestors. The question is, are we going to grasp, hold on to that pearl that's being given to us? I went to Angola and it really opened up my mind, right? We were serving. I shared this with somebody already. I think it was Celia during the study, but we were cleaning the fields, bringing straw, dried grass, right? But straw to another part of the farm area where the crops were being covered, so it holds the moisture in. And it was a very interesting experience. It was a beautiful experience. We had like over 100 people participating. Members from Angola were just singing and dancing, so you don't even notice the time fly by. But it's hard work under the sun with hoe, I believe it's what it's called, right? Pulling the grass up, transporting it. The grass itself is light, but the work itself, a lot of work. And the first thing that came to my mind was reflecting on faith, right? If this was in the US and we were building a farm, what would be the first thing I would hear? The first thing I would hear. Minister, isn't there a machine that we can use to do this? That was the first thing that crossed my mind, right? Or you have to walk actually several hundred yards from one place to the next, like maybe 3 football fields, 2 football fields. Can we get a truck? Put everything in a truck and bring it over there? I swear, I was laughing, right? Because I was doing this and these thoughts and feelings were welling up from within me, right? Nothing wrong with using a machine. Nothing wrong with using a car. But we look for ways to escape hard work. We try to escape. Another thing that I noticed during the service, right? The service goes on and 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 on. Over 4 hours. They're still singing. And literally, if you don't leave the venue, they'll stay there and they're singing and enjoying. There's no time as a constraint. Here, we're like, oh, the service, man, 30 minutes already, 40 minutes. I got dinner plans. I got this and this and this to go, right? Over there, they're living the moment, traveled for that moment to receive God's sacred word that moment. That's magical. I'm not saying I'm going to sit here and now talk for 5 hours, 6 hours. But our heart, when we go to the service, how are we going? Are we going because I have to be there? Are we going because it's time, I just have to do it once a month and then I'm going to go about my life? Or are we going to recognize everything I have, God is granting me so I can serve his will? And he's calling me at that moment to come. One thing that really touched me and it put me to reflect and change. When we have the service here, in the US, the churches, or any church, Kyosho Sama is calling us to his home to pray. President Kabuso actually wrote to Masaki Sama afterwards, and as his own personal report, Masaki Sama talked about sacred ground being Kyosho Sama's home, Kyosho Sama welcoming everybody. He apologized and he said, you know, I was receiving Masaki Sama as a guest, when in reality, Masaki Sama is receiving us at the sacred ground. Meishu Sama is receiving us at the sacred ground. Meishu Sama is calling us to his home. So when we go to Meishu Sama's home, with what attitude are we going to do? Oh, Miss Summer, thank you for calling me, but hey, I got an appointment I got to go to. Ah, Miss Summer, thank you for calling me to do this, but can't you find somebody else to do it? It's the same as the banquet. God prepared a banquet. He's saying, hey, I'm calling you. And we turn to God and say, I got other priorities. God created everything he created in the world, in this universe, for us to get to know God, for us to build our relationship with God, for us to return to his home. Why do we talk about Jesus so much? Because God, through Jesus, opened a way for us to go back to his home, to sit in that banquet. Yet we hear that and we say, I don't like that talk. It's not interesting to me. How would God feel? He creates everything to share with us. And we say, I got other things to do, God. But if you can help me get a better job, thanks. If you help me win the lottery, which is 1.5 billion now, thank you. That'd be nice, right? So we talk about faith. Really, I think we have to rethink. Is our faith really acknowledging that it's here to serve God? Or is our faith here to serve our needs and our wants? Because that's not the faith Meishu Sama came to teach. It's wonderful to be able to receive Meishu Sama in your own country, to receive Kyoshu Sama in our own country. But are we willing to make that trip? Are we willing to serve? Or are we going to sit and say, well, somebody else will do it? The moment God is saying, I'm calling each one of you by name to do this work. Your ancestors brought you here today, brought me here today. They're saying, hey, we worked so hard to get you here. Let's move forward. What are we going to do with that? Are we going to honor them? Are we going to serve with them? Return to heaven with them? Or we're just going to let it slip away? So next time you think a little bit too far to go to church, a little bit too much time to go to church, it's a little bit too much money to offer to God, remember this picture. Because for that person, it wasn't too far. For that baby, it wasn't too much. Actually, it's interesting. I always wonder why African people all sing really well and dance really well. Because from that age, the mother's shaking and dancing, right? And the baby just grows up with that rhythm. So you see like 10-year-olds playing in the band. And it's like, wow, they hold a rhythm like you wouldn't believe, right? But they grew up with that in their blood. Why? Because over there, she's going to thank God for that life. She's going to bring that child to grow up, see that they're here to serve God. So next year, we have the international pilgrimage to Angola, International Youth Conference, like Sama launched, specifically for that reason, for members from around the world to feel that faith in person. I highly encourage anybody who can to participate. But we don't have to go all the way there to begin. I think it starts with our service here in church. It starts with our service here day to day to bring this out to as many people as possible. Honor our ancestors who are the reason why we're here in the first place. Make it possible for us to be here in the first place. Thank you very much. All honor, all glory